Welcome, everyone, to If I May, a podcast with me, Brent, an average guy, along with my two above-average friends, Kyle and Nick. We're going to talk about stuff, whatever we want, while interrupting each other as politely and indistinguishably, no, it's not the right word, as possible. And this is episode 35. Let's get after it.
Nick, are we ready for... Oh, gotta find it.
It is now time for Nick's Nutty News.
Wow. Yeah, still not supporting that intro. You know, I understand you guys put a lot of work into that, but that's something. A lot of options.
So if I make real quick, the primary reason I made that is because I was able to go boop, 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 boop. Primary reason.
That's true. It's really the only reason to make something like that.
Right. So, with that, lots of news, as there always is, as that is a consumption business. So, lots of information out there. Nothing that really grabs my attention. I've been looking and kind of thirsting, if you will, for a new something. And I'm not finding it, and I'm sure there's lots out there and worthwhile, but as far as the websites that I typically visit and find information on, there's nothing that's grabbing my attention. Cryptocurrency is not moving. Elon Musk is doing exciting things. Nothing horribly creative in science, something about Saturn's rings. But the news that I'm going to share with us today is Zion Williamson's a physical freak.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
As
Who's that?
Okay, he's LeBron James V2. He is a physical freak who plays basketball, and he attends Duke under Coach K, which is a very prominent program, and he is incredible, absolutely an amazing player.
So currently in college?
He is a freshman in college. He is the equivalent of LeBron in the sense that if you weren't required to go to college first, he would have been drafted right out of high school, no questions asked. He is that kind of physical talent, and he can shoot, and he can do a little bit of everything. And I had the pleasure of watching a little bit of the Duke and University of Virginia game that was this last weekend, I think. Saturday?
Yes.
Saturday? Yeah.
Sunday.
Was it Sunday?
It was recent.
It was this weekend. But
recent.
it was Duke versus Virginia, and they were number 2 and 3 or 3 and 4. I think they're 2 and 3.
2-3.
2-3 in the nation. Virginia, of course, the 1 seed from last year that was upset by a 16, the first time that ever happened in the history of the tournament. And Duke, who's always a top program under Coach K. But these top 2 teams went at it, and LeBron James was at the game. He went with Rajon Rondo, a teammate of his, for the Lakers, and Williamson and R.J. Barrett, the other phenomenal freshman, 2 of the top 5 picks in next year's NBA draft, no doubt. Both had great games and are great players, but Zion had a couple highlight reel plays, which is what he does, including a block that was absolutely ridiculous. But it's fun to see that new talent coming up. LeBron is still capable of just doing, physically freaky things, but he is 35-ish, 36.
Isn't his goal at this point to stay in it long enough to have his son be able to play with him?
Yes, that is what I've heard.
Kind of like the only reason he's playing.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it's not just the only reason. But that's his goal. He wants to win, and he wants to continue to compete. But as far as the last major goal, other than pursuing a championship each and every year, he's been to the finals. I don't remember 8 of the last 9 years or some factor. That's a garbage number, but I know it's some crazy number like that. He's been in the finals for the last 6 years consecutively. It's incredible. But yeah, that is one of his goals, is to play with his son in the NBA. And why are we making these noises?
Because he'll be back. He's back to the finals every time.
Yes.
Not this year. There's no way.
I wouldn't doubt LeBron. Now, he'd have to beat Golden State, which is They're what a little kid would do if you were playing the game on like easy mode for a career. He'd just get all the best players on one team, and every year they'd still get better. It's stupid, but I won't guarantee he gets to the finals. I'll guarantee they make the playoffs, and I guarantee that they'll only be beaten by Golden State is my bold prediction there. But as far as the news, focusing on something more positive, it's a lot of fun to watch these young talents develop. I'm really excited. The NCAA tournament is right around the corner. The week before that, always also very important with the local conference tournaments. And I get excited for basketball at this time of year now that football's over.
If I may, football is not over. It's just beginning.
What?
Did you see that the AAF?
That's not news.
It had more viewers. It had a higher rating than the
regular season NBA game.
But,
Woo.
Yeah, I'm just saying it could be. So there's a new football league, the AAF, which is the American Alliance Football or something like that. I don't know, some silly name. It's basically if all the rejects from college in the NBA,
all the bad people.
All the people that you don't want to see because they're too old to be in college but not good enough to be in the NFL decide to play football. I watched a little bit of it this past weekend, and it's definitely not the same quality as the NFL. I mean, I think it could be fun.
So you know what I think would be interesting, if I may, quick, is that they have the Pro Bowl every single year, and the game itself sucks. Like, let's be honest, the game is no good. But they do have like all the skill competitions, which I think are pretty interesting. Like hockey does that kind of thing too, where it's interesting. And they also have like that same weekend they always hold like the flag football championship. I think it'd be sweet. I know it's like a completely different game as far as like strategy, but I think it'd be sweet to see like some NFL guys go up against the champion of the flag football competition. Like I think that would be sweet, just to like see those guys play each other. Like have the top flag football team in the country play some of the Pro Bowlers. Like that would be awesome.
Honestly, I don't know why flag football doesn't catch on. Like they're all like, oh, brain injuries in the NFL and football, it's a bad thing. Why not have grown men play flag football and have that be this new league instead of a new reject tackle game? Could be interesting.
So yeah, the news of the week is sports related, as I was not inspired by any business related news or any other happenings of note. So we're getting excited for the NCAA tournament, which is the only sporting event until we enter the long drought for the next NFL season. If you like other sports, that can be one of my talking points today. If we're ready to jump in to our subjects, one of the topics I've wanted to discuss, not at length, but just kind of touch on for a couple weeks. I've had this one in the back seat. The difference between the same way you could describe a job as blue collar and white collar with respect to understanding what sports are out there, blue collar sports versus white collar sports. And I was thinking about this the other day.
We can talk about curling. Yes. I was waiting for the Nationals is going on.
That unfortunately still falls in the blue collar sport based on who plays it. And there's a couple criteria. There's not a real great definition here, but as much as I, as a former football and basketball player, am passionate about both of those sports, they are blue collar sports. And maybe it's just stereotypes, but if you think of
If I may, hold on real quick, can you describe what you mean by blue collar versus white collar sports?
A blue collar job, you're very hardworking. You're probably not paid enough, and you are reliant on your body in a blue collar job sense. As far as a blue collar sport, I was just getting into the definitions. It's not as clear. It's a little gray, and it was just kind of something I was pondering, and that's kind of where I'm looking for input. But if you think a stereotype of the richest people in America, our country, that's our experience set, what do the upper class people play? Because they don't play
hockey.
They don't play hockey. They don't play football.
You're saying, wait, you're saying the upper class doesn't play hockey? Hockey's so expensive for the ice time. Like, that's definitely a
Okay.
rich kid sport.
Okay, I could see that.
Their kids play it, but dude, they play it.
But I'm saying, how many millionaires out there are in business, in engineering, in something else? How many millionaires are out there that were also a professional level hockey player, or not even professional, but they encourage their kids to play. They grew up playing hockey.
Okay, I think I see where you're following. Where like basketball would probably be like a lower end, like blue collar sport, where like the people that play basketball
If I may,
generically.
Tennis is the example to throw out. Rich people play tennis. Is my understanding.
It's a cheap sport too. Like even like $100 for a decent racket and a couple tennis balls, and you're in. I feel like
golf is a very big business sport, and I understand that, and I like to play it. I'm not great at it, but I learned at a very early age that golf is an activity where business occurs. It is great for networking. You get out there. It's an environment where deals can be made or broken on a golf course. So those kinds of sports like polo. Now that's a different country primarily, but
I would love to try polo. That sounds so much fun.
That is now just like hockey, maybe to even a more extreme level. There's a huge barrier to entry, but the difference between white collar and blue collar sports, and I don't have a perfect definition, but I look at the masses, and you and I and all of our friends, and I would firmly put us in the quote unquote middle class, for better or for worse. I don't think any of us struggled. I mean, certainly our parents, scraped by at times to have us, and did a great job, but always had food on the table, always were able to get us the things we needed, at least based on my experience historically. We played basketball and we played football. That was what normal kids did. But there seems
I was
to be...
really bad at basketball. If I may, real quick, I only played basketball in 8th grade. And I only shot at the basket, I think only once, maybe, in a game. And I hit the, cross members and whatnot above the basketball hoop. So, I was okay at defense, but not a great basketball player.
As a senior, I started on a Division I high school team. And that's an accomplishment, but they were the worst team you could possibly imagine. I think we won 2 games my senior year. So I'm not claiming to be great or good or anything, but I can claim that I was a starter on my high school basketball team, one of 5, and that was my senior year in a Division I conference. So
if I may, that's just like me starting in wrestling. Like I started wrestling throughout my high school, and there's 1 or 2 years where I had to beat out one other person for my weight class, but. Yeah, I started a Division I wrestling team, but I was middle of the road at best.
So I would say basketball, of all the sports though, is one that transcends, because I think to people who play basketball, and there's a lot of people that obviously have started, anyone can play basketball, but I think of Mark Cuban. I saw a video on him and what he does for his success, where he's made millions of dollars, and now all he does is play basketball and watch Mav games. Or think about when Obama was in office. What would he do on his off time? He'd play basketball or watch basketball. So I wonder if basketball is one of those sports that if there's some sports that transcend both blue and white colors.
I would agree. That's a good point. And basketball is one of those. That's one of those that, as my father was growing up and he told me about his basketball history, quick details on him. He actually got a full ride I assume it was a full ride. I don't know, to Division II to play basketball. So he was good.
Nice.
And then he played after that consistently. And I grew up playing basketball with him. And one of the notes he had for me on his basketball career and his professional career is pretty much every job he got after college was related in one way or another to somebody he played basketball with. He first made the connection on the court there, and then was able to carry that connection over to a business world and meet the right people, have the right influence. And he's good at what he does, of course, but that helped his career a lot. So not that he's a millionaire or anything crazy. He's middle class to maybe upper middle class. Depends on what your definitions are. I'm gonna say he's middle class and just assume it's broad. But he's had a lot of success, and he's in that category that have done well. But you also see some of the very best basketball players, came out of the ghetto, came out of some inner city nonsense where they didn't have great education, but they had a hell of a basketball team, or whatever. And that's something that a lot of communities can rally behind and say that's one real positive spot in this area. It's just a lot of basketball talent, a lot of physical ability in the gene pools. But that's a good point. There's a lot of sports like that, and the ones I'd like to pick on or try and just outline and just get your point of view is something like polo, something like, okay, what do you think of these country clubs with their white shorts and their just their full outfits that they wear to go do these physical activities, and sometimes they do play them at a high level. I'm not saying they're not athletic, but then there's the whole train of thought is they're going to go play a sport that other people can't afford to play, or other people don't play and have never tried.
Well, like, if I may, with polo, you have to have a horse. Like, horses are crazy expensive to own and then also feed and all that. So yeah,
if I may, though, water polo does not include horses. So
water polo requires a pool or lake.
True. In a lake house. No, when I think of sports that, like, polo is a hard one for me to really register with because we're in the U.S. I don't think people play polo all that often, if I'm being honest. I always think of, like, pickleball, but that's one of those where, like, it's basically tennis.
Pickleball's a weird one.
But it's like, do only rich people play pickleball? Because I know people in Seattle have very nice houses that have pickleball courts in their yard, which is super weird. I don't know them personally, but I've seen their courts. But then again, is it like what retired people do? Like, but then again, if you're retired, you probably have money. So pickleball is a weird one to me. I feel like that's more white collar, but
prime example. Who do you know outside of retirement communities in Florida
or rich people,
or rich people that play pickleball? Like, it's an interesting concept of, okay, these other strange sports are out there, and and not saying there's not physical freaks playing them and dominating in them, but it's kind of goes back to an argument I heard once from an announcer that was remotely risky, is like the ultimate frisbee championship of the world.
Dude, that would be awesome.
Oh, Madison won the league last year. Not of the world, but they definitely won.
Like college level nationals.
There's a very generic comment.
Pro level.
There's a very generic comment I could make about that. It's just like something to the effect of, yes, this team just won the ultimate frisbee championship of the world, but I can guarantee you the 50 best ultimate frisbee players in the world have never played ultimate frisbee. Like, it's like there are physical freaks out there who just haven't played the games because they're not mainstream, because they're not this, because they're not given an opportunity. There's barriers to entry, like the snowboarding.
If I may, I think frisbee is a fairly low entry one. Skiing and snowboarding, you're onto something with that one. That one's a huge barrier to entry. Like, just going once in Colorado here, it's like $200 if you want to go skiing or snowboarding with rentals. Like, if you have your own stuff, it's a little cheaper, but like maybe $60 cheaper if you have your own stuff. But like,
if I may, you have to really separate out is it high entry to play and is it a popular sport? Because frisbee is gaining popularity, but like, if you think about it, there's just not, you got to follow the money, as Kyle always will say in things, and there's just not money in frisbee. Where like Antonio Brown would be a heck of an ultimate frisbee player. He's the best wide receiver in the game, or one of the best wide receivers in his game. Like, he could catch a frisbee very successfully as well. So,
pro tip,
that's interesting.
Frisbee is not getting more popular.
It won't. It's been around for too long.
It should, though, dude. Some of the ultimate frisbee guys are super impressive. Like, that was one of the sports that we played all the time at camp, and I would like to say that, like, I don't want to brag, but I feel like I was pretty damn good. We're like, put it this way, when I went to college at UW Platteville, I initially did like go to the ultimate frisbee like club to like check it out, but like honestly the guys were dicks. Like, I guess I didn't really do it my freshman year, but like my sophomore year I went to that's how I actually got introduced to rugby, is I went to the ultimate frisbee practice, and like the guys were just dicks to each other, even like not even just new people, but like just
So,
asshole.
if
Hold on. There's like assholes, and like when practice was over, they like the rugby guys were right next, literally on the same field, like on the other side of the field. They're like, "You guys want to try rugby? Like, come on over." And so I went and tried rugby, and those guys were super fun. And so that's how I started playing rugby, which could be a topic at some point in the future. Rugby experiences.
Rugby's an interesting one depending on where you're from. But to wrap this one up, if I may, my final thought was along those lines, Kyle, as far as you run into people who play a sport and are very good at it, and they may not be the friendliest. But you run into, the comparison I'll make is like a chess club. The president of the chess club or the best chess club person in a high school, may walk around with a bit of a swagger. They may be king shit on, oh yeah, you want to play chess? I'll take you down. Like part of the reason there's potentially, in my mind, other than the barrier to entry, all of these obscure sports is people want to feel a little bit like you do, Kyle, with respect to, yeah, ultimate frisbee. You're damn right, I'm good. Like, no offense.
Well, like even with that, like they were like, I would do some like flicks and stuff, and they were like, ooh, like that was pretty awesome. Like, but it's like if somebody screwed up, they would just rip on them. It's like, what do you got? Like, these guys might be new to the sport. Like, what are you doing? Like, do you want people on your team? So that's I guess that's where I was coming from. Where like the ultimate frisbee guys, at least my freshman or my sophomore year, were kind of dicks. Apparently, they got nicer as the older guys graduated and left, but it's just like, dang.
It's a clicky thing though, because I'm thinking back to high school, and there was a men's volleyball team at North that was very, very good. I think they won state at least 2 times while I was there, maybe more. They were a phenomenal men's volleyball team, but nobody ever went to go watch them. And they had their own little clique. They had their own little swagger. They were the guys. They were, the big man on campus in their sport. Like, everyone goes to the football games. That's the culture. That's the thing. The basketball did not get support at my high school. At your high school, it got a ton of support. Which
our basketball team was good.
But for the volleyball, and that's kind of my wrapping up point is like, in order for some people to consider themselves the big man or big woman, is that the same on campus? Whatever. I'm going to use the big man on campus reference, where you're king shit. You walk around and everyone is acknowledging how awesome you are at what you do. Well, if you're not good at any of the mainstream sports, we're just going to go create something else, and then Tom over here is going to be great at that, and Tom's the bestest what player ever. You make it up just so you can have that kind of a feeling, or you have your clique, or we do this and we're good at it, and you get that kind of feeling. But interesting thought. I've thought about that the last couple of weeks and kind of had that in the back burner for a sports topic. So
if I may, I've always thought, like, what if there's a sport out there that I would be the best in the world at, like, and I just don't know of it or have never tried it. Like, maybe I am the world's greatest polo player. I have no idea. Never tried it. Like, would have no clue. But like, that's kind of weird. Like, there's got to be there's got to be something out there where I'm like the best in the world. I guess that's an interesting thought in general. Is there anything that you think you are the best in the world at doing, whatever that might be?
I love that thought, and that's actually, like, I'm a very confident person, and sometimes it's not justified, but I come across as incredibly confident. Apparently, when I say things, it sounds very official.
I drink and I know things.
That is my ringtone, and yes, I drink and I know things. But one of the things that in the back of my mind, as far as what defines how confident I am, or just whatever switch was flipped when I became as confident as I am, I just kind of have the approach of, okay, you can beat me in 10 games out of 10 games in various sports. You can be a better swimmer, a better basketball player, a better football player, but there's going to be something I'm better at. And I don't always know what that is. Like, I can stand back, and I'm humble enough to, barely, because I know I'm not horribly humble, sorry. But I am humble enough to acknowledge that there are plenty of people better at a lot of different things than me. But I do always have that, but I'm better at something. I don't even know what it is.
Right. It's like you put me up against like a LeBron James or like an Aaron Rodgers. Okay, yeah, football, they kick my ass. Basketball, they kick my ass. But there's something out there I'm better than them at.
Most athletics. But if I have to go to
No. Even athletic stuff. There's some athletic something I'm better than them at. I don't know what it is, but there's something. Beanbag tossing, maybe? I don't know. Maybe shuffleboard. I mean, that's a sport. Curling. I've never actually curled myself. Broom ball. I guarantee I am better at broom ball than Aaron Rodgers. No, guaranteed.
I guarantee you're not. That's absolutely not true. Scary. If you're an athlete, you can be good at broom ball.
See, I even gave up the whole. It doesn't have to be physical, just because I don't.
You gotta give up the physical. You're not gonna be Aaron Rodgers in anything physical.
There's gotta be something. There's gotta be darts. Maybe. There's gotta be something I beat Aaron Rodgers in. Darts might be a hard one because he throws balls for a living.
He's from California, so something on the ice you can probably beat him.
But he plays golf.
Skiing. Does he ski? I mean, California does have some mountains, but I might be a better skier than Aaron Rodgers.
That you might be.
Plus, he would probably get fined up the butt if he went skiing.
So if I may, last one story on this subject, because ironically, I played pickup basketball at my college for the 4 years. Well, I did all 4 years.
First Aaron Rodgers.
I was done with football, and there was a gentleman who was an All-American caliber player for Michigan Tech, and he liked to play pickup basketball from time to time, and I did go against him. Now, I fully acknowledge if I go against him, I won't even say now, because he's actually playing professionally in wherever he's from. It's not the Middle East, but that area of the world. But if we played 99 out of 100 times, he would win. Back when I was more athletic,
busting out the miracle speech. If we played them 100 times, if we played them 10 times, they might win 9. But not tonight. Not this night.
But on the one day I actually did play him, he guarded me, and I just shot over him. And I made the first one on him, and he's just like, oh, okay. And then the next time down the court, made the second one on him.
You're like, I'm done. I'm done now.
No. He's like, okay, you're not shooting the rest of today. And then I got the ball the third time, went down the court, and I pulled up from the parking lot. I was, the Steph Curry, LeBron James nonsense, just pulled up from God knows where, knocked it down. And I think I had 12 of my team's 21 points in that game, and we beat them. But it would never happen again, but it did happen that day. And he's playing professionally. The guy, Ali was his name, but he's 6. I'll put him at 6'9", roughly. Playing professionally overseas, was a freak in college, a great player, a lot of fun to watch, and a great dude, a great guy. Love him. Very high energy, very happy guy. Reminds me of my former next door neighbor. But a lot of fun to play against him, and I had that moment where on that day, in that moment, for one game, I was better. But I'll get off my glory days speech and we can move on.
All right, Brent, what do you got?
In Seattle, it is snowy, and that's not news probably the rest of the world, but for Seattle, it's pretty crazy. Like, I know everyone else has snow and it's not a big deal, but for some reason in Seattle, it just keeps coming, and I think for February already, it's record numbers of snow, and it's only the 11th as of the recording. So, and we're supposed to get more this week. It's crazy.
Don't you guys have more snow than you've gotten in the last 70 years or something crazy like that?
I mean, I don't know. I haven't been there.
I heard something on the radio.
So. It's something wild where even they're talking about it in Boulder. So it's a big deal. The thing that gets me is you go outside and it's beautiful. It's like if you were to have the best day of snow in Wisconsin, 30 degrees out and packy snow. You got probably 4 inches. You can build a snowman. Like yesterday, we built a snowman. Do you want to build
a snowman?
You can go sledding.
Wait. Pause, if I may. You guys legit built a snowman yesterday? Like you and Heather went out and built a snowman?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. I mean, it was the best day.
I legit cannot remember the last time I've built a snowman.
I can. It was yesterday. But before that, I don't remember. I never built a snowman. And so we're building these snowmen. We went sledding, and in Seattle, because there's so many hills, like we just sledded on the street, which was awesome. Actually, we have a funny story with that, but I'll tell a little bit later. But the thing that gets me is it's a lot of snow for Seattle, but just how woefully unprepared the city is to deal with it. I mean, everything seems to be shut down, grocery store being cleared out of food. It's just not that much snow. If you were to be in like where you are, Nick, in Minnesota, like you would look at it and say, "Oh yeah, it's just like a normal winter day." But there's just no plows. And I was thinking about it, and it was one of those things where it's like, in Wisconsin, like all these driveways and all the parking lots would be cleared out because everybody and their neighbor either has a snow plow or at least owns a shovel. I mean, I saw people with brooms trying to clear off their driveway.
With a broom?
Like a little broom and a dustpan. And another person was trying to clean their yard off with a little like rake that you'd use for leaves. Plastic rake. I mean, it's just
wait, they're trying to shovel their yard? Like, why even move the snow on your yard?
I don't know. I don't think they know that
they don't know what to do with snow. They're like, oh, it's on my lawn. Oh, I don't know. Oh God,
move it. I mean,
oh God,
raking their yard with a little rake that you would use for leaves. It was so dumb. It looked really silly. But I've never been in a place that's been so unprepared for just what I would consider a normal amount of snow for anywhere else in the country.
Right. I guess if I may, it's kind of the similar thing with Colorado with a slightly different situation. So like Colorado, it'll very consistently snow, like just dump like a foot of snow, and within the next 2 days, it's all melted and gone. So like they don't even like put salt down or anything. Like they'll have the plows come through like once, and then they're done. Then they just leave it and assume it's gonna melt, and they never shovel it. So like we just had snow the other day, and it's been a little colder the last couple of days, so it hasn't really gone away. So there's just been like crappy piles of snow and like slush in the streets, where normally, like in Wisconsin, that would be gone. Like it'd just be plowed off by now because they'd come through and they'd plow it. But here, they just assume it's going to melt, so they just come through with the plows like once right after it's done snowing, and they call it good, and they just wait for it to melt. The other thing, like with the not salt thing, apparently occasionally they'll put down this like gel stuff to try to like help the roads, but I guess I haven't seen that stuff. Normally they just throw it on like pea gravel kind of thing.
So speaking of roads, there's many of the roads, and they close down a lot of like businesses and schools because they only have 35 plows for like the entire area, which is, I mean, a huge city. But there's some roads that just don't even see it. Like we went sledding this past weekend. We went sledding down a street because Seattle's really hilly, so you can, zip down. We ended up, it was really fun, actually. It was a really good time.
As long as it's not like a cross street at the bottom, right?
Yeah, so what would happen was it'd be a neighborhood thing, kind of like a block party, where the parents would separate, move to each that block of the street where there's a crossroad to hold off traffic and control traffic, while the kids and, well, I guess...
And you guys?
Young adults, yeah. My wife, myself, and a few medical residents all decided to partake in the fun. But they would literally be going down, and adults would be holding off traffic, like the one car that was dumb enough to go out on the street. And it was awesome. We walked out there, and we were going to have a sled. We tried sledding at a park earlier, and popped our only sled, which was a $5
inflatable
pool. So that we had a $5 pool tube that we had with us.
That's not good.
That just popped right away because it was crap to begin with and not meant for sledding. So we walked over about 2 miles to wherever we're gonna this street, and when we get there, we see Heather's friends, but then there's also this other guy that comes up and is like, "Oh hey Heather," and I was like, "Who is this guy?"
How do you know my wife?
It was a doctor. It turned out it was a doctor, like one of the Heather's bosses, kind of thing, that worked at the hospital.
If I may, real quick, doctors are a fantastic group to go sledding with. Like if somebody gets hurt, like doctor, there's like, how many doctors do you have with you? I feel like that's like I need to go sledding with them because I am somehow accident prone, especially in winter, And so I need to go sledding with doctors. I think that's the strategy going forward, right?
It could help you. It could help you. Well, anyway, this doctor might not have been the one to go with for you, because
Oh,
he
no.
immediately walks back to his house, which was a few blocks down the road. He wasn't. We didn't know he was here. He just kind of showed up, and he brings beer for the entire group.
Nice.
So he's just like, "Here you go. Like, we thought you might like. I thought you might like this, as you guys are all sledding and just hanging out in the middle of a Seattle street, basically. Like, it was wild." Anyway, the reason I'm telling the story, which is kind of long and convoluted, was someone brought to sled down. We didn't have sleds, so we just were like, "We'll use whatever you have." And somebody brought out a pool, one of those plastic kiddie pools.
Oh, one of the
to sled
blue,
down.
like, I know what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
they have
So we
fish.
slid
They have
down
fish
that.
imprinted in the bottom of them for grip.
Yep. Well, we went down. I went down my own. It wasn't that fast, but then we had walked Maple with us, so we brought Maple down. I just like grabbed her, put her on my lap, and then slid down with
Your dog.
Maple. Yeah. So going sledding with the dog, and that was pretty fun.
Dude, some of those, I think we had one of those kind of competitions when we were in college where you had to you had a $10 budget. You had to go to Walmart and pick out anything you wanted as long as it was not a sled and then make a sled out of it. So I forgot what some people were getting like Tupperware lids and the big Tupperware containers, just going down in those, or like people would try to make like Goodwill futons into sleds. So there was some hilarious stuff. But that's one of my favorite things, is trying to make sleds out of random stuff. That's always good. I know, in college, we'd always snag the lunch dining trays or whatever, and just go sledding on the trays. That was a good time.
Yeah, that's a classic. I wish we had some of those trays. That's
You guys
not something
did.
you would
I
do
went
at
eating at
Planet
your
Phil.
place. You guys had the trays for food.
No, I know. I wish we had trays this past weekend.
Oh, I got you.
Because that's what you do in Madison as well. That's a classic.
Dude, I will say one of the favorite times ever sledding was definitely in Boy Scouts, and I forgot where it was. It was the one with the
Calumet County Park.
I don't think so. It was something with. It
I
had the
was
hay
at
bales at
Calumet.
the bottom.
What?
It had the hay bales at the bottom.
Yeah, that was Calumet.
That
County
was
Park.
okay. But yeah, that place was awesome because there's a massive sledding hill, and we as scouts we'd walk up, and then we had the troop toboggan, which was a good as 12, 13-year-olds. It was a good 4 or 5 person toboggan, but we went up there, and it was super powdery. So going down in the toboggan, we're just getting hammered with snow. You're just constantly getting sprayed in the face. And so we ended up getting other sleds and having people in charge of shielding the sides, shielding up ahead. And then I was one of the new scouts at the time. So I was littler, so I was in front, and I had these sunglasses on. So and a ski mask. I had a ski mask over sunglasses, and so I was the vision. And so we go through. I'm just getting pelted with snow in the face. We're all just hunkered in. Oh, that was so good. And then at one point we're going straight for a tree. It was oh boy. So I have the whole sled just bail. We all tumble. But sledding. Yeah. Sorry, geeked out a little bit, but sledding's a good time.
I gotta add to that. I remember that sled. That was one of my favorite sledding memories. One, I remember a couple older scouts made this big jump, and I was like, "Oh, a jump, cool!" So I took a tube, and instead of just sitting down the tube and just taking the jump nice and normal, I full sped ran, jumped head first,
God.
and just went and just face planted, and then dragged down the hill for 6 feet, with just my face. Oh, that was great. And I remember my mom sledding there, and there was those corn hay bales, and I remember my mom going on a sled and just going right through it,
Just
went
through the hay
between
bales?
Yeah, she went through the hay bale kind of.
Oh god. Yeah, because we were smaller, so we didn't have enough mass to have the momentum to keep going. Because there's a big hill and there's a smaller hill, and us as little kids, we wouldn't quite get over that second hump, but all the bigger kids and the adults would just plow right over the top of that. And that would have been scary. But I remember they also people were grabbing those hay bales and making a giant hay bale fort out of them. That was super cool. There's a lot of cool stuff we did in Scouts. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, welcome to everybody now.
Nick, were you ever in Scouts? I don't actually recall if I know this or not.
No, my parents didn't love me. No. That's not true at all. I don't have any of the Scout experiences. I remember, I think I attended a long walk for one of your and or Brent's badges, and I
were you on
hated
one of our hikes? I think I vaguely remember this.
because I hated it because all we did was basically walk or hike for some 10 plus miles, and even then I was a bigger kid, and I just know that by the end of the day my thighs were so flippin' chafed from
Dude, that is the
whatever.
worst about hiking.
Yeah, and I had zero preparation for it, and I just wanted to die afterward, and I'm just sitting here like, okay, I was raised with four-wheelers, I was raised with all of these great things to get you from one place to the next. Like,
Why am I walking? What are we doing here?
Oh, we're getting our badge for walking and shit.
The hiking merit badge.
Great. Like, why the fuck am I here?
That's how I felt about the biking merit badge.
I never took that one.
Why would you sit on a bike when you could walk somewhere?
Because biking is way faster.
Yeah, but it hurts your butt so bad.
You get used to it.
I guess.
You get one of those pants that have like the cushions built into them.
Oh my god.
It's like, why? I don't understand those. So like professional bikers, they'll get like this really skinny seat, and then they get the pants that have like the cushion built in. Why don't you just get yourself a more comfortable seat? Like, what? Like, there's material there no matter what. You might as well put it on the seat instead of into your pants.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Like if
Makes
you're
the
gonna
bike heavier.
if
It's
you're gonna
probably
put
lighter.
Yeah, no, but you have it on your butt then. You still have that stuff there. It's either built into your pants
it's wrapped into your body shape. So to have it that way would hypothetically make it more aerodynamic. You're not wrong, but I can see how in theory it would be more aerodynamic if the cushioning were in your pants and covered by your pants, as opposed to having it be a determinedly larger object without that cover over it. In theory, I'm not the scientist behind that one.
What I never understood was why people wear those pants and all that fancy gear like when they're commuting to work. Like I see people commuting to work like in the summertime. I would bike sometimes, and people would be literally dressed up like they were racing a
just to bike to work,
50-mile bike race or something.
Dude, we have some intense bikers here in Boulder.
Yeah, why?
Like we'll have people come in. Like there's some people I work with that they are super intense biking, and so they'll wear all their stuff to come to work. I don't know. Maybe it would make sense if right after work you're going to do a nice long bike ride or something, and you're just going to get home. Or if you legitimately have like that long of a bike ride into work, then it might make more sense where you're trying to stay comfortable, because a lot of the guys will do like races and stuff, just like amateur races in their free time, just for the fun of it. So like there's some intense people here in Colorado in general, especially in the Boulder area.
The intensity level's pretty similar, or higher in Minneapolis. There's essentially
I don't know about that. If I may, real quick, there's people that are literally going for runs in Boulder, which is at like 8,000 some feet of elevation, and they're wearing oxygen deprivation masks and like a vest with weights on it.
Well, those guys are pros.
Those guys are ridiculous, and no, you'll constantly see them.
Pros in Boulder.
Okay, I wasn't trying to say that kind of intensity as far as
those guys are nuts.
Intensity.
But the commuters are as intense, I would say, because there is something referred to as the Greenway, which is an entire biking system throughout the city that is an alternative to the highway that is very crowded and used very heavily throughout the city. And one thing that's very attractive about the Twin Cities is that the trails and paths for biking, walking, and everything are pretty much throughout. You can very easily go anywhere in the city, and basically you're never going to touch the street. There's all kinds of access, and there's a whole plug I could do for the city if I hadn't already done it. But they're very intense, lots of commuters. Everyone feels they are entitled to the right of way and are complete assholes about it.
If I may, I feel like that's every single city, though. Like, what I always feel like this, and it happens in Seattle too, the Brick Gilman Trail, a similar thing as your Greenway Trail. But it's like if I'm driving, I hate bikers and walkers. Like they just have no clue about the road. If I'm biking, walkers and drivers are the worst people in the world. Like, what are they doing? Or if I'm walking, it's like bikers and drivers. Are you kidding me? Like, I feel like no matter what mode of transportation, I just am biased against the other two modes of transportation.
Whatever
I don't know
mode,
if you guys-
that's like whatever mode of transportation you're doing is the correct one. Like, what are
I'm
these
the
cars
way,
doing?
Like, I have the right. Everyone else is idiots unless it's like my way. You know, if you're walking, like, sure, you're fine. Like, you usually stay out of other walkers' ways, but the bikers are always zipping by you. But when you're biking, those dang walkers, are you kidding me? Why are they on the trail? It's a bike trail. Come on.
Yeah, and when you're riding your motorized skateboard down the what?
Yeah, it's such a double standard, though. I feel really like hypocritical about it. It's like probably the biggest time like, if I'm driving, like if someone's biking on the road, like, come on, man.
Well, like in Boulder, the bikers are crazy because there's so many of them, and I forgot there's some statistic where Boulder's like number 3 or 4 in the world on something as far as like most bikers. So I think Madison's actually like one of the most biked campuses. Like it's a similar title to that where it's the most biked something in the world.
Lance Armstrong came to celebrate one time.
Celebrate? What do you mean?
Yeah, he like biked right by me. He was like 3 feet away. I almost thought about like touching him, like reaching out and grabbing him.
Just push him over.
But I thought that might tip him when he's on his bike. I was like, I don't want to be the guy that like tips over Lance Armstrong before he was found to be super dirty.
If I may, Brent, are you willing to make up for your entrance where you like stuttered through 3 other words and didn't read what was on the script and whatever? Could you provide us with a segue of sorts, seeing as there's so much your specialty?
Well, okay, so just to give a clarification, if we do the same intro every time, it could get old. So, you know, I don't want things to get old. I want things to be new. You know, I want things to be fresh. I want things to be different. And to give you an analogy, like when you were in a competition, we talked about being the best. You know, you could do what you did last year. You could use the same stuff you did, the same routine, the same materials. You could build something. You know, like I'm thinking just out of the head, robotics. You know, like you could be using robotics. You could use the same robot you did last year, or you could build something new. And speaking of something new with robotics, Kyle, how's your robotics team doing? And what new things are you building?
Beautiful segue, Brent. I love it. Robotics team's doing pretty good. Actually, so this last weekend was end of week 5, so they have I think they have until Thursday this week or something like that to finish up the robot before it gets bagged and tagged. So that's literally like they put it in a bag and have to put like this special tag on it that seals the bag, and you're not supposed to break that seal until you get to competitions, and then you can open your robot and do any final touches or whatever before you start. I think the competition has it's a 3-day thing. The first day is all like practice stuff. The second day and the third day are the competition, which the third day being like the playoffs essentially. So they're looking pretty good though. The only main thing they have to work on is they have to get all their electronics mounted. We temporarily just kind of like have all the electronics on just a piece of plywood that we have just like wedged on the robot to just have everything there, and that way we can see if it works.
Just duct tape it.
Yeah, zip tied. It literally is on a 2x4, or not a 2x4, but like a piece of plywood that's just zip tied to the robot. It's like their practice setup, and yeah, they just need to get it onto panels. But they're looking pretty good. They got the competition this year is Destination Deep Space or something like that. Basically, there's like these discs with Velcro on the outside. They have to be able to grab those and place them on things. And there's balls you can grab and put them behind these hatch panels, and the hatch panels hold the balls in. They play with balls this year, but yeah, they're looking pretty good. I'll try to get some footage of the competition on the Zarubust channel, some inside the pits or something like that, because that'd be kind of cool. But yeah, fun time.
Can they do the climb yet? Can they?
They have the climbing modules. So at the end of the game this year, you get bonus points if you're able to climb on top of a platform. And this platform is like 20-some inches off the ground. And so our team, you get like 13 points for climbing this stage, I guess. And if you're at 13 points is a big percentage of the total possible score. So our team kind of focused on wanting to be able to do that. So right now they have like 2 modules with gear screws that like shove down spare wheels that go downwards and lift the whole robot up. And so they work, and they can lift the robot. It's going to be a interesting programming challenge to get it to lift leveled and not tip over. So that'll be
So
fun.
if I may, this is going to be a quick tangent train.
Beep beep.
We haven't had one of those yet.
Yeah,
but,
need a couple of them.
Brent, that was an excellent segue, and I'm very proud of you.
I got one more coming.
Hey, by the way, quick segue to the Segway. Beep beep whoosh. The inventor of the Segway is the founder of First Robotics. Fun fact.
That is a fun fact.
Gracious professionalism.
So the other part of my segue there is, at some point, because we failed so miserably at the whose line is it anyway bit, we just
The Three Little Pigs
bombed.
thing.
Yeah.
We don't talk
one of
about that
us
episode.
Didn't even remember the story. It's not as bad as the one we dedicated to our mothers, but that's right up there.
It's up there.
As
It's a
far as
classic moment.
epic failures where one of us literally forgot what story we were trying to tell. But with that note, I hear things and I just process it. Brent had that lovely segue into Kyle, and then Kyle, you started in with the bag it and tag it, and then you gotta break the seal. And bag it and tag it could have been a segue into something else, but then breaking the seal. And then I immediately thought you were going to segue back into a Tiny Tanks reference. But I'm like, we should go back and forth and have like
That'd be fun.
a segue competition. Like you have 30 seconds or so
To try to segue this conversation to something else.
Into something else, and it has to try and it has to flow somewhat naturally.
Oh,
you
I
can't
could win
just
this
be
one.
like, and then the Civil War occurred, and
Speaking of the Civil War, I've actually recently seen a game that's called, I forgot what it was called. It's like War of something, but it's actually legit like a recreation Civil War game where it's like Call of Duty-esque, but it's fully like Civil War realistic. Like you have to fully like reload your muskets, and like everybody's taking volley fire. It looks really fun. Maybe we'll try it out. It looks like a good time. It's like $26, which I'm not sure if I want to go that deep on a Civil War game.
How much time do I have to stare at the screen while I quote unquote reload my musket?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Later, and like you have to like affix bayonets and stuff, and they have a whole system.
I'm gonna start texting people in between volleys.
Just reloading in my video game. Don't worry about me.
Oh man. Okay, so speaking of robotics, real quick,
that was not a correct segue.
It was not a quick segue. I'm going back to that because it was a tangent. So as a tangent, it means I can ignore it and go back to what we were talking about originally. We want to do our producer, I'll give him credit on this one. His roommate actually. So I'm not gonna give him credit on this. I'm gonna give my producer's roommate credit on this one. Came up with an awesome idea, Zarubust or Plus, where we are gonna look at a item that we find on Amazon most likely, and we're gonna say if it's a plus or a bust. And this week's episode is a robot of all things.
Here, I think I got. Hold on 1 second. I do have a thing where I can show the full screen. Maybe not.
Yeah, get it up on the screen.
It's not really showing.
So if you're watching
God,
you can
I'm trying.
not see it right now.
I'm trying. I'll get there. It's
we are getting this on the screen.
So if I may, did we just pick a product without having actually reviewed it before the episode?
No, I've seen this product before, so it's cool.
I have never seen this before. This is a brand new.
It's not working.
One person has seen this product. I'm sorry, this sounds like a horse crap idea.
No, this is great.
So how am I going to give it a plus or a bust if I've never
Dude, just look
seen
at it.
or used
Okay,
it or...
so there's
take a moment.
Yeah, take a moment and you look at it. So this is Vector. It's actually a re-release of a robot called Cosmo. And so the Cosmo robot was just like a little mainly a toy for kids, and it's really one of those big kid toys, and you can tell. But if you the Vector guy is their next generation in line after the Cosmo, and he's basically an assistant. So he's a little cute robot that's also an assistant, and he's so I think the quote unquote idea of the segment is it is a Zaruplus or Zarubust, and this one's for sure a Zaruplus. However, the price is.
Oh no, this is
it's
not
$250.
Plus, this is a Zarubust. Are you kidding? If I may, this is so dumb looking. It's basically if your Google or your Alexa could just drive around and give me I use my Google every day. I'm not gonna lie, I do enjoy it, but it's creepy as heck. And if it could follow me as I go from room to room.
Well, it's stuck in it's stuck on a desk
It has wheels.
It
looks like it can move.
The thing's like as big as your microphone, Brent. It's not that big.
Oh, that is really tiny. Okay, yeah. Never mind. It's really small.
If I may, gentlemen,
it's very cute.
This segment has potential.
It has Zaruplus potential.
However, this was way too premature of a.
No, it's not. I have
thinking it through.
I have watched multiple YouTube videos about this guy.
I'm glad this is just your channel. Though. I'm glad it's just your channel and you have it under control. We should have introduced the product, given us a day at least to watch videos, research. Maybe something we use or own. Because otherwise, I mean, if you want to discuss it, we can discuss it.
Mug.
But we have to have seen it and or used it.
But just look at how cute he is.
Okay, so
the person
I will give the producer and the producer's roommate credit for the idea. I think it's a solid idea. I think our release was far too premature, and we're gonna have to just segue out of this, and we'll come back to it with a product that all three of us have used, such as a pen cap that Brent wants to talk about. Just shoot me. End this episode. What's our closing segment?
All right, so this initial time is a Zarubust, but we'll get up in the Zaruplus.
No, it's a Zaruplus, but the price is sketchy at best. We'll give it sketchy at best with the price.
All right, I'm gonna do a nature news, and then we can wrap this thing up.
Oh, wrong one. Let's try this one.
Nick's just
it's time for
the nature news of the week. All right, so because of the snow, it's been a pretty slow week for anything nature related. I mean, they're talking about climate change, but whatever. And I happened to see that in China, an 8-year-old girl fell into a panda exhibit and survived, thankfully, I guess. But at the same time, I hear all these stories time and time again. Child falls into mountain lion exhibit. Child falls into bear exhibit, and it makes me wonder. Like,
there was the one with a couple years, like a year ago or two, where like the kid fell into the gorilla exhibit. And the gorilla was like
literally died for this. Am I right?
You're so right. Everything else is wrong.
Literally died for this, which is just horrible. I mean, if you think about it, just like why do these things keep happening? Is it the zoo's fault? Like, are they not making things secure enough? Or is it because parents cannot watch their kids, which is their one job at the zoo?
Do you want the hard answer?
Yes.
We're not allowing natural selection to occur.
Darwinism.
Just leave them in there with the pandas. Leave them in and see what happens. I don't know. I mean,
if I may, real quick, I know this is a small segue, but my wife and I were talking about the whole like leashes on your kid thing. Like, when is that actually acceptable? I think number one, if you're in like a Disney World or something like that. Okay, number one, there's an age limit. The reason this initially came up is because they had like downtown Boulder or Lafayette, they had like a Peaches Festival, and there was like maybe a freshman or sophomore in high school with a leash attached to their younger sister, I assume, that was like maybe 7th, 8th grade. It's like, what is going on? Plus the hilarious thing, and I can't believe I missed the picture. Like, I should have just fucking done it. But they were in, like, one of the stalls was, like, dog leashes. And they were, like, looking at leashes while the high school age kid was having a leash to their, like, middle school age kid. And I was really trying to, like, take a picture of them being, like, looking for a new leash. Oh, it would have been so gold. But, like, at what point, there's an age limit. I think elementary school, for sure. Anything older than that, like, you're past the age you're allowed to put a leash on your child. And then number two, as far as like where is socially acceptable, like a Disney World, Carnival, kind of maybe something like that. Otherwise, the only other, if you're going skiing and you don't want them to go too far in front of you, that way they don't crash. Like, what other time is it okay to put a leash on your child?
I go for the school of thought that it's just not okay. If your kid needs to be leashed, it probably does not need to be wherever you are at. But then again, I don't have kids, so it's one of those things where I can't fully sympathize. Where it's just like, if your kid can't stay with you at Disney World, maybe don't take them to Disney World. You know, that's common sense to me speaking. At the same time, everyone wants to go to Disney World, so I get why you'd want to go anyway, kind of thing.
So if I may, as a new parent, My new child will be on the leash for the foreseeable future, which is a lovely segue. And we, if you segue,
That was good.
That was a good one.
Real good segue right there. I
thank you,
appreciate
thank
that
you.
one.
We've actually used segue inappropriately a couple times. We meant tangents. I think I even screwed it up in my
Segu.
tangent train as opposed to segue. But yeah, I got a new dog. So that's the finale for today's episode. In my mind,
The
unless
big
we have a
news.
closing segment.
No, that's
my big news is yes, Megan got a new puppy for Valentine's Day. So
Aww.
gentlemen, step it up on Valentine's Day. Do better and compete with a new puppy. Good luck. But no, we got a Australian Shepherd, and I was able to surprise Megan this weekend because I wasn't going to try and keep a puppy in the house without her knowing.
Good luck. Godspeed.
So yeah, so I just gave it to her on Sunday when I was able to get the puppy from the breeder, and her name is Luna. We're very excited to have her. I'm sure we'll get her on an episode in the near-ish future. I think you guys have all seen pictures, and if anyone who knows us wants pictures, just reach out for them, and we'll send plenty. But things are going well. We're on day 2, and it is a blank slate. She is not potty trained, not house trained, not leash trained. She never wore a collar until yesterday. So lots a steep learning curve, lots to figure out, and nothing we're not prepared to handle. I've got experience, and Megan's been doing very well. So she's actually the dog is actually asleep in my spot on the bed right now, in the kennel.
Ooh, tisk. Oh, in the kennel, you're doing the whole. I got you.
Yeah, and it's because a lot of the success I had with Ghost in the first couple weeks was based on she wouldn't sleep all at night. She'd whine, she'd complain, and in order to make it easier on her and help build the bond with me, I put the crate on the bed, and she would sleep and be quiet if she could see me. And I put the crate on the bed and, help create that bond. And our hope is that that bond with Megan, we want both of us, of course, but we'd like the bond with Megan to be as strong as possible. So putting the crate in my spot on the bed, which kind of sucks.
If I may, Nick, aren't you worried that you'll no longer have any dogs in the house, seeing that Ghost already probably is Team Megan as well? Don't you want selfishly to have a little dog left for you?
No, I'm good. Ghost will always answer to me first, so I'm not horribly
concerned. Nick has two tones with Ghost. It's like, the best dog ever kind of tone, and then the get over here right now. There's two tones with Nick with Ghost, and it's either like Nick that's like big, not I don't know the better. He's not like bigger tough guy look, but something like that, where it's like, but then he's like. He just melts with his little doggy.
But dude, she's my baby. But at the same time, yes, I do have her trained for my most serious male deep voice, and Megan can't replicate that. So I have the final say, to say the least. Not that Megan has a great bond with her, and Megan's come so far from not really being a dog person to now she can't go to bed without having Ghost with her. So yeah, she's come a long way, and we're excited about the new puppy, and things are continuing to go well. And yeah, that'll be the best Valentine's Day present for many years. Although last year's was pretty inventive. I did one of the I was inspired by those sculptures where if you look at it only from the right angle, it spells something out. And I did a really good job with that, I thought, last year, and was really creative.
We should post a picture of that just for our listeners to have a look at.
To have
cool.
a thing to aspire to.
It was a really cool idea. It turned out, I'll say reasonably. It wasn't amazing. You can clearly see that it spells something, but was it professional?
I mean, you're making something out of food. Like, what are you gonna there's only so much you can do.
So that was really cool last year, and I don't think I'll get the creative juice flowing like that anytime soon. But a new puppy we'll have to do this year, I guess.
Here's Juliana's Valentine's Day present. I already have it wrapped.
Ooh.
For some reason, I thought it was on the 2nd, but basically, because she does her Camp Gladiator exercise class thing or whatever, she's been wanting a leg roller thing forever. So I designed and built one myself and 3D printed it.
You know what the best
sweet.
part about this is that by the time this episode is live, it won't be spoiling the present.
Yeah, it's too late.
You'll not know what it is because it's going to be Valentine's Day. And with that, everyone, have a happy Valentine's Day if you're listening on the first day, or hopefully you had a happy Valentine's Day. This was episode 35, and we bring it to you with love. We hope you all enjoyed, and this Thursday, I believe, is Valentine's Day. If it's not, I'm in big trouble. But with that, we need your support. So please buy merchandise, the links below, subscribe, share, rate, and review. If you want free shipping again, free ships Z, all caps. And if you want to get in contact with any of us or you have any questions, please just send us a DM on Twitter at Zarubust or email zarubust@gmail.com. We hope you have a great Valentine's Day Thursday and a great every other day besides that. And we will see you again next week.
Bye, guys.
Peace.